Today we're building that fiscal financial house. So you start with the foundation, right? You start with a blueprint, really. What do you want? All of that. You go back to Mitch's playing days in the NFL, there was a game plan. Falcons were going to play the Vikings. There was a game plan. Falcons were going to play the Cowboys. There was a different game plan because everybody's team's strengths and weaknesses are a little bit different. So there's a game plan. It's the same thing that Mitch does for you when it comes to your retirement, helping you build that retirement blueprint. Well, today we're building that fiscal financial house. It starts with the blueprint, right? You got to have an idea of what you want to build. Then it really goes, when you start building it, you start with the foundation. You got to have a great foundation. Well, the foundation of your fiscal financial house really is income. You've got to have guaranteed income in that so you kind of know where you are. And if you can cover your monthly income needs in the foundation, boy, there's a lot less stress, isn't there, Mitch? If you can really cover your income needs just in the foundation, you're kind of good to go, stress-free.
Oh, no question. It takes a lot of pressure off, right? If you know every month that bucket, your savings account's going to be, or your checking account's going to be filled back up with that, let's say you needed $6,000 a month. If you know that $6,000 is going to be showing up every month, you can live a little more freely. You can live a little more confidently and not have that stress and worry of wondering if you're going to have enough in retirement.
So the foundation, income-wise, would be Social Security, pension if you're lucky enough. There's annuities that create that. There's all kinds of different ways to create income, and Mitch can certainly talk to you about that. But let's move up the house from the foundation to the walls and the roof. And I'm assuming that when we get to the roof, we're now getting a little bit more hoping the tornado doesn't blow our roof away. So that's the part that gets the foundation. Remember, tornadoes come, the foundation stays there. I saw a tornado in Joplin, Missouri, and they did a Netflix special on it. And I think it was when was it? I don't know when it was. It wasn't that long ago. But I was doing games for a college, and we played Missouri Southern, which is in Joplin, Missouri. And it was right at the tornado had happened that April or May. And we played in September, and we had a lightning delay. And I said, hey, I'm going to take the car and go drive around and look. And this is 4 or 5 months later. And I mean, block after block, you might see one house, but basically you saw concrete slabs. It was the foundation was all that's left. So that's why the foundation's so key. But the foundation, moving to the walls, where are we going in our fiscal financial house when we get to the walls?
Yeah, I kind of look at the walls. It's protecting. The foundation's going to make sure that structure stays secure. But those walls, create some protection too, right? The winds aren't going to blow through a wall or a closed window, so you need some good walls. And that, to me, that is your protection against long-term care. And there's long-term care and legacy, right? A lot of people have goals to leave dollars to charity or maybe leave dollars to kids or their grandkids. And there's different ways to do that. And I relate it to on that airplane when they always talk about, hey, when that oxygen mask falls down from the ceiling, put yours on first, then go to help your kids, right? And it's kind of the way I look at retirement too. Hey, let's make sure we're taking care of mom and dad first, right? With the income. And then from there, and part of that is protecting against long-term care, and there's different ways you can do that. We talked about that in the past a little bit. Traditional long-term care insurance is really expensive. There are some hybrid products out there now that we can share with folks if they call in, talking about where you can not give up your asset. It's not a use it or lose it. You have multiple uses. You can increase your amount if in fact you need long-term care. There's annuity products that will double your income if in fact you had to go into a facility or needed home-based care. But in terms of legacy, what you want to leave kids, there's ways to do that more effectively too, and just ensure that no matter what happens, kids are going to get X amount of dollars, grandkids, whatever it might be, your church, your charity. So that's some of the things we can build around your living space and make sure that all your goals are being met. Income's needed to live your life, but we want to make sure that when those other things happen, that legacy and your income sources are protected.
So how much does it change, do you think, from people working to retirement when it comes to the foundation, the walls, the roof, and all of that? Because we go into retirement trying to save that number that we talked about earlier that nobody knows. Mitch could figure out what your number actually is, but everybody kind of guesses. They don't really know. But it's about income first. That's why we started with the foundation, building your fiscal financial house. But at the end of the day, you go into retirement and you've been saving and saving and saving, and now you get to retirement and now it's pull money out. That is a hard thing for the great savers that have come along. Now, for the spenders, maybe you might have to slow them down a little bit. But typically, it's not two spenders. It's typically a saver and a spender that are married. But the savers, you've got to give them some. Hey, you can take that trip. You can get that car. You have to give them permission almost.
Yeah, no question about it. It's a mental shift for sure, right? When you're used to that salary hitting your account every other couple weeks, right? And then all of a sudden that stops, and now you've got to live off your nest egg, what you've built the last 30 or 40 years. That's a major mind shift, right? And for a lot of people, that's a struggle. And you're right, they don't want to risk, spending too much and running out of money. That's a major fear. That's the number one fear people have about retirement, is running out of money. And again, that's our foundation. We want to show you exactly how you can have the income you need, to keep the lights on, right? We call it your paycheck for life. And then, to have that extra dollars to take that trip you want to take, or to take the kids and grandkids on a special, trip to Disney or Europe, whatever it might be. That's kind of the play check for life. And there's a place for both, right? And we can set that up so that it's just hitting your account each month, right? So, and I think when we do that and we show that with our software to folks, and they can see the picture that, hey, we are going to be okay. And like you said, oftentimes the spouses are different ends of the spectrum. If we can show them together, I think that helps them, kind of crystallize in their mind, okay, we're going to be okay. And yeah, here's why we have these sources of income that are coming in. We're protected if the market drops. We're protected if we have some long-term care issues. It just gives them that peace of mind and lets them enjoy retirement.
So my guess is the walls, the tools that we put into our fiscal financial house in the walls are probably a little bit more conservative than what we put in the roof. So when you're putting that income plan together for people, and maybe it's years 1 through 5, and then 6 through 10, or however you do that, the wall money is not for that year one, right? I mean, or the roof money is not for year one. That's for maybe 5, 10, 15 years down the road. You're letting it grow, and the market's up and downs and all that. The roof is a little bit riskier, I'm guessing.
Yeah, earlier I talked about the 3-bucket approach we use with the income bucket, protected bucket, market bucket. The income bucket's that foundation. Part of the walls, which I didn't touch on, part of the walls, long-term care, legacy, but part of that is the protected bucket, right? Maybe assets that are tied to the market without taking on the risk of the market. And there's different strategies and tools you can do that, where you can have some exposure to the S&P 500 without taking on all or any of the risk. But that roof is, like you said, that's the market bucket. Those are the dollars that we're going to have in the market. Hey, the market's always done well over long periods of time, right? We have all seen the charts where it's outperformed bonds and cash equivalents and all that. But it doesn't always outperform those assets, right? So whatever amount, we want to make sure the foundation and the walls are set. And then those other dollars that we want to have in the market, we can let the market do the market thing, which is up and down all the time, right? I mean, it's not just a linear path upward, the market's averaged 8 or 9%. Well, it's not every single year. It might be up 30, it might be down 20, it might end up averaging 8 or 9, but it's going to be a bumpy ride to get there. And as long as you're not dependent on that for your next month's income or next year's income, we can let the market do its thing and not have to worry about the ups and downs of it. And that's what I always tell people, listen, these dollars over here on the market, we don't have to worry about. You're set. You have the income. You're protected.
So I think that's one of the keys when you think about building that fiscal financial house: the income, the foundation, the walls, which is the protected income, and the protected strategies too that aren't all at risk. And then the roof is where you're putting some money in that's down the road. So when you put all this together, I think we always hear about diversification. And to me, diversification is kind of misunderstood. I mean, if I have, Mitch, I tell you what, I am so diversified. I've got 20 different mutual funds. I am good and diversified.
Yeah. Well, the problem is what's the overlap in those portfolios, right? Those mutual funds, they may be holding, and oftentimes are holding, a lot of the same stocks, right? For example, maybe they all own Apple. Well, how much diversity did you get if they all own the same stock, right? So that's part of it. Are you really diversified? Are your income sources diversified, right? Are you dependent on Social Security? Are you dependent only on your pension? We like to create multiple streams of income so that you've got some diversity there as well. Oftentimes, certain sources provide a proportionally higher amount of income. So there's that. And if we can do that, that allows us to put more in the market-based bucket. So yeah, there's a lot of things that go into it. But, and again, no retirement is the same as somebody else's retirement. Each one's individualized. And we need to look at that and consider everyone's goals when we're setting those up.